Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at the top story this hour. Russia has moved to designate Facebook as an extremist organization and opened a criminal case against the social media giant's owner, Meta, after Facebook on the 10th of March said it will temporarily ease its rule regarding violent speech, allowing for, quote, forms of political expression, unquote, but clarified that it would not allow for credible calls for violence against Russian civilians. The United Nations Human Rights Commission flagged the change in Facebook policy as concerning. Remember, the Kremlin had blocked content from major social media sites in Russia and passed a law allowing for 15 years jail term for those spreading what Moscow considers fake news.
Russia opened a criminal case against Facebook's parent Meta Platforms on Friday and moved to designate the social media company as an extremist organization. The move comes after Meta changed its hate speech rules to allow users to call for violence against Russians in the context of the conflict in Ukraine. It was not immediately clear what the consequences of the criminal case might be. No comment was immediately available from Meta in response to a Reuters request. 2 weeks into Russia's war in Ukraine, a Meta spokesperson confirmed on Thursday it had temporarily eased its rules for political speech on Facebook and Instagram, allowing posts such as "death to the Russian invaders," but said it would not allow calls for violence against Russian civilians. Internal emails seen by Reuters showed the social media company had also temporarily allowed posts that call for death to Russian President Vladimir Putin and Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. The company added that the temporary change aimed to allow for forms of political expression that would normally violate its rules on violent speech. The United Nations Human Rights Office said the potential change in Facebook policy was, quote, concerning. Many major social media platforms have announced new content restrictions around the conflict, including blocking Russian state media RT and Sputnik in the European Union. Twitter has removed tweets from the Russian embassy in the UK about the bombing of a children's hospital in Mariupol for breaking its rules against denying violent events, according to the company. Citing the Reuters story, Russia's embassy in the United States demanded that Washington stop the extremist activities of Meta Platforms. Moscow has cracked down on tech platforms during the invasion of Ukraine, which it calls a special operation.
For more on this, advisor in tech and data ethics, Pernille Tramberg, is joining us live from Denmark. Thank you for being with us on this broadcast. Now, Facebook and Instagram are easing rules regarding violent speech against Russians and Russian soldiers in the context of the Ukraine invasion. How do you look at this?
Well, I see that it's the first time we actually see a social media platform taking active sides. Usually they will be more neutral, and recently we're seeing them taking sides. They have blocked Russian state-owned media, but Facebook or Meta this time goes even a step further by allowing hate speech towards Russian soldiers, and that's a very, very active part in this war. They are on the side of the democracies.
Right now, Russia is furious and is now moving to designate Facebook as an extremist organization. What is your take on that?
Well, it's wartime, and whatever Russia is doing in this is very, very hard to trust. There are so many fake news and lies and manipulation coming out of Russia that it's hard to take them seriously when they call Meta an extremist organization.
Right. Now, in the case, Meta, the parent organization, seems to be taking sides in the conflict, as you mentioned. Now, in your opinion, can social media regain their status as democratic players?
Well, in 2011, with the Arab Springs, they were they really gained a position as democratic players because everybody suddenly had something to say on their own platform. And that was very positive. But since then, they have commercialized their platforms and been accused of abusing data and their monopoly situation. And they have even helped Putin come to power. Definitely. They also helped Trump come to power. And that's a situation, in 2020, the Russian state video platform was the most seen on YouTube at all. So in that way, Google/YouTube has helped them come to power. And that's not something you just wipe out and forget.
Now, Pernille, also, it once again brings into focus the immense power that these social media giants have, because not only can they influence, but also regulate public opinion in a sense.
Yes, they can. I wouldn't call it regulate, because regulation is something happening from governments, right? They can divert opinions and they can manipulate opinions, definitely, or others can use their platforms to manipulate, which we saw in the US when Trump came to power. You could use Facebook's advertising system to manipulate people by giving them more info about what they are more interested in and not what they are not interested in, and you can kind of push them in different directions. That's the whole problem with those social media platforms who are pushing content to make money on those who are using it those who are paying to push the content. The whole virality we see in this, it's not a neutral way of getting information.
Mm. Now, the social media companies have frequent run-ins with various governments, from the US to India to Nigeria. Is it time, do you think, to have a global framework under which there could be some regulations on them?
Well, it's always beautiful with a global regulatory framework, but it's also pretty unrealistic. I mean, we have so many universal human rights agreements, and if you live in a country with a dictatorship, I mean, they just don't give a shit about those regulations. So I believe that we have to also help governments push those social media platforms in the right directions. Of course, we need regulation. I don't believe we can have a universal one globally because we are such a different world. But I do believe we can have some principles, and that we as citizens can help push it in the direction we want it. That would be a more democratic way of making them listen to us.
Right. Thank you very much for joining us on this broadcast, Pernille, with all those valuable insights there.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.